Well, hello, everybody. It's Dawn Samuelson from the NEIGH, the National Equine Institute of Growth Through Healing, Incorporated. How's everybody doing today? I have some interesting things I'd like to talk about. I know we've talked in the past about the emotional coat, and today I'd like to talk about our zipper tab. Everybody comes with an emotional coat, in my opinion. And what I'd like to talk about is who is controlling your zipper tab. As you can see, many zippers have a tab such as this. And what I have found is that with people that I speak with and friends of mine and clients, we sometimes have to ask who is controlling that zipper. So in other words, I've heard many times, he's making me feel this way. Or she said this and she is making me feel uncomfortable. So what I'd like to ask is this. Who are you allowing to control your zipper tab? Okay? So for me, what I'd like to do is I would like to be able to be in control of my own zipper. And in doing so, what I need to do is learn how to take ownership. So I'll give you an example. I go through and I'm at the grocery store and I walk up to the teller and the teller's in a very bad mood. And I'm sure all of us have experienced that, where all of a sudden I ask her a simple question like, can I have a bag? And I get the roll of the eyes and I get an attitude. We have a choice right there. We can choose to be reactive or we can choose to step back for a minute and look at that behavior as how interesting that behavior is. So in other words, if I become reactive, I now am getting aggravated and I may lash out and say something negative back to her like, what is your problem? When I do that, I have allowed her to control my emotional coat, my zipper. On the other hand, if I were to step back for a minute and realize that maybe she's having a really bad day. Maybe it's her emotional coat that has an issue right now. And I step back and I either do nothing or I choose to be pleasant back to her. I may ignore it. I'm controlling my own coat and how I respond to that negative behavior. So I feel like we all have a choice many times. We have a choice to take ownership or to place blame. So what I have found in my practice is that many times when a client comes in and they are full of blame, that gives me an area to start with. And part of that is to educate them on their own emotional coat. It's a lot easier to blame someone else than to take ownership in our own behavior. Many times we cannot change a habit if we're not aware of that behavior. So, in other words, what we need to do is we need to step back and, first of all, be able to identify the fact that we have something going on in our life that causes us to be a blamer. Once we do that, we then can be given tools and strategies to be able to work through our own personal issues and learn to remove the emotional coat, or be able to leave the coat where it belongs, which is somebody else's issue. But what happens many times is we end up either putting someone else's emotional coat on and carrying the burden. If you're a caregiver, if you're a people pleaser, those are the type of people that have many emotional coats on top of their own because we're trying so hard to please other people. Then what happens is that person is so weighed down with all these emotional coats trying to please other people that they've totally lost themselves. So now what we need to do is start peeling off the other coats and setting them aside and figuring out what is my coat all about? And maybe there's a root cause. Maybe there was a loss at a young age, an abandonment issue, something the psychological that caused a trauma that had caused a person to have the need to be a pleaser, to be a caregiver. Once you figure out what that cause is and identify that you are that type of person, you are who you are. But now we don't have to make that our identity. And if you're tired of being walked on, if you're tired of being a caregiver for everybody else, and you're feeling it's time to step up and take control of your own emotional code, then what we need to do is be able to submit and realize that it's okay and that it's your emotional code and take ownership in this behavior. That's number one. Then we work through and give you tools to be able to learn how to do it. And then through repetition and consistency forms a new habit. It seems so simple. Does it feel uncomfortable? Yes, it does, because we have a habit of being the type of person that puts on everybody else's coat. So it takes practice. Once we practice this, it becomes a new habit. And guess what? It becomes very freeing that I can control my own zipper and I can remove my own emotional coat. And I can also step back and say, that's not my issue. That's not my coat. I don't need to wear that. And leave it where it belongs. We may want it for someone else, but ultimately they need to be able to recognize and own it themselves. So everybody stay tuned to next time and have a great day. Take care of your emotional coat.